again someday if he can first beat his insurance company in court.
But this is much more than just an insurance dispute. The Fox 5i team discovered it's an example of what can happen to civilian contractors who go overseas to protect Americans without having full protection themselves. Fox 5i team reporter Randy Travis here now to explain. Randy?
Yeah, Russ and Sinead, we've heard a lot lately about civilian contractors doing the work traditionally reserved for the military, like the guys portrayed in the movie 13 Hours about the Battle of Benghazi. But when some get hurt, should they also have to do battle with their insurance carrier?
In my mind, I'm going to walk again. I just need the tools to be able to do so. That's all. I need the chance to be able to do so.
A chance. It's what keeps Willie Myers smiling while he sits in his Woodstock living room day after day after day, fighting with an insurance company that's supposed to offer some peace of mind to the men and women who travel far from our shores to protect our people.
You think these insurance companies are intentionally dragging their feet on this?
Sure, it's a lot of money.
Since 9/11, our government relies more and more on civilian contractors to supplement our military, like the 6 men depicted in the recent movie 13 Hours, assigned to protect the CIA annex in Benghazi.
We're all gonna die.
But since 9/11, supporters estimate more than 3,000 civilian contractors have died, another 90,000 injured. Because those contractors are not members of the military, they don't qualify for VA benefits. Instead, a law called the Defense-Based Act requires their company provide workers' compensation. And that's where Willie Myers' fight continues to this day.
He was doing important work for the American people, and he shouldn't be treated like this.
Myers once served as a DeKalb County paramedic, but eventually found the allure of overseas work too tempting and profitable to pass up. He spent years in Iraq and Afghanistan employed by International Development Solutions, providing protection for visiting Americans like Condeleeza Rice and current Secretary of State John Kerry.
My job was to make sure that I put you back on the plane in the same condition that I picked you up in.
Despite the danger, Myers was never injured in those war zones. But in 2014, he wound up assigned to the US Consulate in Jerusalem. And one day, he decided to go for a short swim in the Mediterranean.
And I was about maybe 30 feet from the shoreline. And that's the last thing I remember. I woke up 2 days later, intubated in an Israeli hospital. Woke up, couldn't move. Initially thought that my hands were tied.
His hands were not tied. Myers had suffered a C4 bruise when a riptide apparently slammed him to the bottom of the Mediterranean. He was finally coming home to Georgia, but as a paraplegic. And his insurance company was refusing to pay his claim.
You're telling me I'm canceled. You're telling me I'm nobody.
They're saying he doesn't qualify. Check out this map of Tel Aviv. This is where Willie got hurt, right here. Well, the attorney for his insurance company, Allied World National Assurance, said in court that they don't think that Willie was in a zone of special danger, which would require them to pay benefits. We would not be here today if this had happened in Afghanistan, he said in court, but it happened in Israel. Sure, Israel's a dangerous place, but no more so than in Atlanta or New York City. They also argue they shouldn't have to pay because Willie went swimming during his off time.
But Myers says he was swimming to prep for an upcoming physical fitness test and was on call should his services be needed at the consulate.
When they're in a dangerous area, they're on 24/7, really. So everything they do is covered.
Houston attorney Gary Pitts represents hundreds of civilian contractors suing their insurance company. Several years ago, he even testified before a House committee, along with some of those civilians fighting for benefits.
I lost the sight of my left eye, 3/4 of my right, and I lost my left leg.
A lot of people nodded their heads, but it really didn't,
It didn't make any difference. Congress declined to make changes to the law that Pitt says would have stopped insurance companies from dragging out expensive claims.
It would be a nice modification of the law that if the judge found that to be true, that it was a frivolous defense, that they could tack on something so that they could discourage this kind of behavior.
Can you move your arms?
I can move my arms now. My hands and fingers here, my right hand, I still have some contracture, which would be a whole lot better if I had physical therapy going on for me, but right now I'm kind of limited with that right now.
After he got home, Myers spent months rehabbing at the Shepherd Center. But last summer, he had to stop because his company cut off his health insurance.
This part sucks. I hate being in the chair. You know, I'd rather, you know, be outside throwing a football to my kid, or, you know, taking my daughter to cheerleading practice.
It could be months before an administrative law judge rules on Myers' claim. But as time ticks away in this Woodstock living room, a man who still vows to walk prepares to go the distance in a case that could be worth more than $1 million.
Does that mean that I'm going to, you know, shortchange myself or shortchange my family because somebody else wants to play a game with me? No, I played the games. I've had people shoot at me. Okay, I played those games. Okay, and then wanting to play some bureaucratic paperwork game, we can do that.
Myers says he's had to refinance his home so he can stay in Woodstock. Several other injured civilian contractors we talked to around the country say they've actually lost their home because their insurance company dragged out their claim for years. Now, Willie's insurance company denies that they've dragged anything out, but as we pointed out in the story there's really no downside for them to deny his claim, because if they lose, they just wind up paying pretty much what they would have paid if they had granted his claim in the first place.
Wow, such a concerning situation. I wonder, does Myers, he clearly has very limited mobility. Is he able to work at all?
Well, as part of this case, Sine, he was required to apply for 6 different jobs, and they gave him this list of 6. They were all telemarketing jobs. He says in 5 cases they didn't call him back, and in the 6th case, turned out it was a scam. So yeah, he had no possible job situations there at all.
Well, it would be nice to see some downside risk for the insurance companies if they are acting frivolously.
Congress had a chance to do that many years ago and said no.
All right, Randy, thanks.
All right.